Here we are with the flashback episode of the Midweek Howl to me and the Howlers' youth, right? I mean, are we
Yep.
okay? All right. So for all the newbies, this is the non-paranormal part of the From the Shadows podcast. If you're looking for Bigfoot, me and the Howler do not have him with us today. So
No.
we have other lost things that we're trying to find, not
And
Bigfoot.
I give up. I give up like old Ben Johnson says in that. It was Ben Johnson. It's hold on, I'll tell you. It says in that sometimes you get to a point where you've lost so much stuff, you just try to put a tourniquet on it.
What? Lost so much blood that you try to put a
No.
tourniquet on? What is that
In the
saying?
You ever see No Country for Old Men?
Oh gosh, yeah. And
And
Ben
no
John
Ian, isn't it Ben Johnson? Who's the old man with all the cats? It might not be Ben Johnson. It was
is
I'm
that
gonna
his
go up right now.
is that his character's name? Ben
Well,
Johnson?
Ben Johnson was an old Western guy. You know who Ben Johnson was?
Boy, I don't. Probably if I
Dude,
saw
he
him.
was in like a 300 movies.
Well, if I probably saw him, if I saw him, I probably would.
Barry Corbin,
Barry Corbin. Okay.
who was John Travolta's uncle in Urban Cowboy.
Okay. All
You know
right.
the very last scene. So Tommy Lee Jones is reminiscing about his dad getting killed by some bandits and this and ask him about the guy bandit that paralyzed him. Do you ever get revenge or you ever something? And he said sometimes you lost so much as you're trying to get back what you lost, more's going out the door. Sooner or later, you just got to put a tourniquet on it and go with what you got or something to that effect. So anyway,
Okay. Wise words.
I had
Just
another old friend of mine die this week, and just
oh yeah.
well, what do you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I had another classmate die last week. And that makes like 15 out of my class.
How many
And
people
we
were you in your class?
maybe like 120 at the most, maybe 115. So I mean there's we're not that old. I mean, we're old, I guess, but 55 is not old where you should lose.
Well, my buddy was 76. He's about to be 76. So he was. I mean, I don't want to say it was time, but it was certainly in his world. It was time, I suppose. But
It was time. Well, I
his
mean,
his parents lived to be in the 90s, so he didn't make it that far.
ooh, which um, reminds me, Christy and I we finished watching this series on Netflix called A Man on the Inside.
Okay, what's it about?
And it's Ted Danson.
Uh huh.
And he plays a widower. His wife, before the show starts, died about a year ahead of time. So his daughter's very worried about him, and she's like, Dad, you need to find something to do to get back into the world. Find
Okay.
something that excites you. So he answers this one ad of a private detective who got hired to find a jewelry thief inside this old folks' home in San Francisco. And so he it's a whole big, setup. He goes in and is spending the month investigating in this old folks' home, and it is very funny. Ted Danson does a great job. They have some great character actors as the people. And it's funny and it's sad, at the same time because,
Wow, what do you mean?
well, you get to know some of these characters, and maybe one of them dies, and you see, you know, um, the varying degrees of people just wanting to get rid of their parents, just like setting them there and never going to see them, and how are these people, still feeling vital and alive? These people are like 20 years older than me. And I'm thinking, wow, this is kind of hitting home. Like, is this what's going to happen?
Back in 20, that's why you got a younger woman. Maybe she won't put you in a home, or maybe she will. Maybe she'll be like Alec Baldwin. She'll sit around and talk about her ex in front of you.
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of younger woman, we surprised her last night as we're recording this
Right?
last night. So next weekend is her birthday. She turns the big 50, which she's
Yep.
been kind of dreading, which I don't know why she's been dreading. She's way better, even with her back surgery, she's still way better than most of us ever were getting to 50. Okay. And So, we've been planning this for 3 or 4 weeks, me and her, our daughter Izzy and her mom and one of her friends, Dawn, and how we'd get her to the place. And, we invited all the people and they all kept it a secret. And then
So
um,
you rent a place, or where'd you have?
I
You have it
re-
at a
we
central
rent
location?
we rented a place across from the golf course. It was this little like lounge area that they had fixed up.
Lounge, boy, that sounds nice. I haven't heard of a lounge in a long time.
It's a lounge, and it actually was a place that we got together and hung out, all of us old basketball players, after they had named our the floor at our high school this December after our old coach. It's a place we all got together. So I saw it and I thought, it'd be a cool place to have a surprise party. And so it was going to kind of work out. Yesterday was our first basketball tournament, and for AAU, and I was gone most of the day. And the timing was going to work out kind of right, where I'd get home just to get ready, not have to kill too much time. And we told everybody to be there at 6:30, and we were going to get there at 7. But I get home and she's hungry. She wants us to go pick her friend up a little early, because the idea was that her friend was at this location, had another thing going on called purse bingo. So there's a bunch of women were playing purse bingo. I don't know what was going on up there, but it seemed like a kind of a wild time. So I
Hmm.
don't I don't want to speculate.
So did you finally have to just tell her shut up, or do you
Nope.
take her out to eat so she ruined her own party and say it's your fault? You're the one that didn't want to listen to me.
Well, as I'm going upstairs to take a shower, I get a text from her friend Dawn that says, "Hey, her dad, won't be here till 10 till 7 with the pizzas." And I'm like, wait a second.
Boy, you really splurged for her party. Big spender. I like the way you roll, man.
Pizzas. We had fancy cupcakes. We had
Tell me they came from Casey's or fancy cupcakes, okay?
no, some lady made the charcuterie boards and the fancy cupcakes. And so, but now I'm thinking, okay, we can get there 15 minutes early, everybody will be there. But now I'm worried, like, am I going to run, like, how I got to
Like
go
run into her parents or
like,
something?
I'm going to
Like
have
run into her
to,
dad?
yeah, I'm going to, like, the way I would go to town is the way
So?
her dad would come from getting the pizzas.
So didn't you just
So
go and
I just
you say, I
killed.
don't know what the deal with your dad is. I don't know what he's doing. He's getting up there and
Why is he just driving around? So we get there. I kill enough time. I drive slow enough, whatever. And as I go, I'm scoping out the parking lot. Well, her mom drives this great big blue old Dodge Durango. Okay, it is the only one in town, the only one in the county that looks like it, and she is parked in the very back of the parking lot. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to
where
get
you would
past.
see her, or what do you mean?
Oh, where if I pulled up beside it, my wife would immediately go, "Why is my mom here?" Okay.
Why couldn't you just pull up front?
I had to pass, like driving by the parking lot. Her mom is parked in the back. Like when I say the back of the parking lot,
So would your old lady even
it's
asking why you were going there, or would you tell
no,
her?
no, no, no. We were going to pick up her friend. Her friend was at
Supposedly,
the
okay,
the
that's what the
store.
first bingo story was.
Yes, yes. The story
You just
was,
say, I guess your mom must be here too.
well, she would know better than that. But the story was her friend's mom, who was at Purse Bingo, and her friend, who lives up in Cleveland, was back home hanging out with her mom, and we were going to pick her up from Purse Bingo. And the mom wanted us to come in
God, you're
because
overthinking this, aren't you? I mean, is this
no,
common for
worked it.
you, or what?
Yes, I'm a thinker. Don't you know that? And anyway, but anyway, so when I say back of the parking lot, people they're parked um how would you say that? Like you looked at the
Parallel with the
parking
street or perpendicular?
parallel with the
It's one or
street.
the other. Okay.
Parallel with the street. So when I say the back, it just means it's the first thing I see. Okay. Because so we get past that, and I'm like, well, I got to turn into the front row. As I turn to the front row, Izzy's car is parked right there, but her car is so new. that Christy did not. She
There's
just
just a
thought,
lot of them out there.
yeah, there's a lot of them. And so we, we get in there, park, we walk up, and we walk into the lounge, and she sees all these people she knows, and they all yell surprise, and she's like, okay, like
Did it bring it to
she,
tears, or she forgot it was her birthday?
well, she didn't know what to do. She's like, oh my god, like she's like, oh my god, what is going on? And so she goes, looked at me, she goes, after everybody yelled surprise, she goes, well, now what am I supposed to do? I can we go around and say hi to everybody. So she went around, so then it was a fun night. Everybody, lots of people, her old college roommate, people from up in Cleveland when she lived up there came, a lot of her family, a lot of our friends came. I was disappointed. Our good buddy Chris Hahn did not wear the red shoe. He's got bright red, like almost clown shoes that go with this red shirt.
Outfit.
And yeah,
He
he
didn't
didn't
wear it
wear. I was
to keep the
disappointed.
girls off of him, or what's happening?
I was disappointed, but it was fun. We had a fun night. We got to, like I said, see a bunch of people, and it was kind of cool. But what I was telling you was so Izzy got some decorations, okay, and so one of them was one of those. If you were born in 1975, here's what was
What's going
pop.
on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's going on? I said, okay, that would be something cool. Like, so me and you in 1975, we're about
four or five. Yep.
4 or 5 years old.
Didn't know what time of the year it was. That's
Didn't
right.
know, yeah. We just knew enough. We just knew enough.
I don't even
So,
remember knowing anything. I still don't.
so I thought, because most of our listeners are our contemporaries, that they would enjoy hearing this list of stuff. Which, as I looked at it, I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. So I'm going to go down through, and here are some of the popular things from 1975, and just see what your take on them was. So the first thing they got listed is mood rings.
They
Did you
had
ever
mood rings back then.
mood rings?
I thought
Yeah.
that was the thing a few years ago.
Well,
Must have brought them back, right?
did it come back? Like was that something you wore and it like changed color or something?
Yeah, and depending on what color it was supposed to show if you was in a good mood or bad mood.
Okay, I'm gonna have to investigate that a little bit more. I don't know. I wonder how
Well, it's
accurate that.
probably like just a lot of superstitious voodoo shit. Ain't probably
Well, here's
some people it probably doesn't affect, and some people it runs their whole world. So
mood rings. So here was something that shocked me, because I remember this being all the rage when we were about 12 or 13. Rubik's cubes in 1975.
well, maybe it took a while to get out in the country, but you're right. When we were in the '80s, it was a
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember Rubik's cubes, and like it was all like they just all of a sudden were there. So now you mean to tell me they were around for 10 years
Yeah.
before? Wow. Still one of the best. That was a great documentary I watched, was the one kid trying to become the maintain his hold on the Rubik's Cube championship, and how those guys could solve, there's guys that solve it with one hand in less than 10 seconds. It's just insane. I'll have to look at the name of that, and let everybody know if they're interested, because it's one of those ones where you're like, why do I care about Rubik's cubes? And then you're like watching it, and it's like, this is insane. So now here's another one that I never quite got, but seems to have never stopped being popular, is pet rocks. Like, like, is that just ironic? Is that what that is? It was having a pet rock. So,
Well, I would have thought in '75 they'd beat your ass if you said stupid stuff like that, but I guess not.
well, here's the next thing that's popular, which has made a comeback. Hip huggers, bell bottoms, and leisure
Leisure
suits.
suits. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I had a leisure suit probably when I was 8 or 9 that my mom made from a pattern from Joanne Fabrics, which is no longer going to be in existence.
Oh yeah, they went out last year, didn't they?
Well, they're closed. I think they're closing everything up this year.
Yeah, I was just say we had one up here and they closed it a few years ago.
Oh wow, that was the beginning of the end because, yeah, we still have one that hasn't closed near us. But yeah, my back in the '70s, my it was the popular thing to do was to buy patterns of the clothes you wanted and actually make them.
Yeah, I made my first camouflage shirt I had to make in home ec when I was about seventh, eighth grade.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Really? It probably still around if you.
I don't know about that. I don't have it anymore. It certainly wouldn't fit me.
Here's another oldie but a goodie: 8 tracks, which I don't think they're
They
going to ever make a comeback.
they were new back then, or they were just a fad.
They were the
Because I had a
fat.
'76 Chrysler Newport, and it had 8-track in it. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had an 80. What was the last car we had that had an 8 track?
we had an
Well,
84. Our last one had we had a 80. No, we had a '79 LTD wagon. It had an 8-track. I'm trying to think of what else.
but I don't think those are ever going to come back. I
I don't
mean,
know. I had a whole box of 8-tracks. I wish I knew where they were at.
I,
Uh-huh.
well, I remember having, so it was bad enough when we were kids. We recorded on cassette tapes.
Yep.
I used to record on 8 track tapes.
Oh, I knew you could.
You didn't know you could?
Oh, how'd you do that?
We had a big console stereo, and it was the same principle. You put the 8 track,
Yep.
you could get blank
I
ones.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and it had a record button, and you could push it down and record off the. You could record off the radio, and I believe you could record from the record player.
I learned so much on this podcast. I learn more from the podcast than they do from me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that information's going to help you anytime soon, except maybe in a conversation with Ed. You know,
You
and
know, Ed, one of these days I'm gonna introduce you to him.
well, I want to know is that our contemporary? Then is this stuff gonna?
Yeah, he's the same age as he's born in November of '70. So
Okay, so right
he's a couple
after.
years older than me.
Okay,
A couple months older than me.
okay.
I
So
was January '71.
and I was October of '70, so he's right in between us.
Yep,
So the other thing which I love still to this day is disco.
I do
Was
too.
I love disco. I think it got a bad rap.
Did
Um,
you see the documentary on the Bee Gees?
no, I did not. There's a
Oh my
documentary on the Bee
gosh,
Gees.
there's a documentary on the Bee Gees just to if you're into that sort of
Oh
thing.
yeah. I'll have to look that
I
up.
forgot what it's called. Basically, they were a victim of their own success, right? So
Oh
they
yeah.
they were big. I didn't realize like their first hit album was like in '59 or '60.
Oh yeah. They had a hit in the
The
late
old
59.
guys,
Yeah.
the older
Yeah.
boys,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So by the time Staying Alive came over, they were like playing clubs, and they were like kind of basically a joke. You know what I mean? They had peaked.
Hmm.
Well, what's the second oldest one? What's the
It's Barry, Maurice, and
I think Maurice maybe the middle one.
okay.
He said when he was 21, he had 5 Rolls Royces
What?
because they had made so much money. Yeah, they had made so much money so young that by the time like 72, 3, 4, they just pissed it all away and were just in playing, basically getting phone calls. Hey, will you go play this club? And they're like, dude, every drunk in that town knows it. You know what I mean? That's 10 miles from where we grew up, and you're just a failure because he said, I don't know where all the 5 went, but I had them. You know what I mean? At one time.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and whoever was doing the Grease, was it Grease? When did the Saturday Night Fever?
Saturday Night Fever. Yeah.
They said, I thought I told you this. So one of them old time producers called him up and said, hey, would you write a song? Because I guess these guys were great songwriters.
Oh yeah. Yep.
We're doing this movie. This is what it's about. Would you write me a couple? Can you write us a couple songs? and they talk to the producer, and he shows them, and I don't know if it's the right one or just a prop, a cassette that they mailed from England to New York, and the 4 songs on it was Saturday Night Fever,
Night Fever, probably Night Fever,
Night Fever,
Staying Alive.
Staying Alive.
What else would have been? It'd have been like
Just, you know
You're
what I mean?
Always a More Than a Woman, probably.
Yes, I don't remember which 4 it was, but every one of them was a number one. You know what I mean? So, so then they went from playing these clubs to literally having like the number 1, 2, 3 songs, the number 1 album for like 3 years, 200. You know, an album in the top 10 for so long. They sold so many copies for so long. Like 3.5 or 4 years later, the Chicago Cubs had a night you could bring your Bee Gees albums and blow them up, and they put this giant stack out.
That was the White Sox and Bill Veeck, I believe.
Yeah,
it was
because everybody hated them so bad.
Death,
you know what I mean?
The Disco Night or something. Right?
Yes, because they sold so many albums and played it on every station 24/7 that after about a year and a half, 2, everybody hated them.
They're fantastic. And
I love them. I love them.
I think Maurice Gibb also wrote Islands in the Stream.
Yep.
What else?
He does a bunch of them.
Oh yeah,
there's different people. Yeah, they have those people. They have like Kenny and Dot. You know what I mean? They show these old videos and those guys. And then what was the young kid's name? The one that passed away early.
Andy Gibb.
Yeah. See, he was a lot younger in
because he dated Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, and they talk about that. And one of them's dad, maybe it was the oldest. One of them went to see him because he started out on top, right? He never he never started out poor and making it and losing it all and making it again. Does that make sense? He didn't have that. And the one of them says, hey, the first time I went to his house in Hollywood, he's got a Porsche and all these hanger-ons and amount of cocaine on the table. And I'm like, dude, you got to get rid of these. I mean, you think you can live like this, but you can't live like this. And he's like, oh, I can handle it. I know what's going on. And they're friends of mine or what, and it didn't.
No, it didn't. And that was terrible. He was just as talented as those guys, as the rest of them. The next thing on this
went off the rails there. What's
but hey, listen, I hope everybody stopped and went and played their favorite Bee Gees song.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with that. The next one I'm not a big fan of is Pez Candy. Like
little Pez dispensers.
Like I like Pez dispensers because
tell me Candy cigarettes is in there somewhere.
I don't see it yet.
Oh, okay.
I don't see it. I don't see. And no Big League Chew that hadn't been invented yet.
Oh yeah, that was the 80s thing for sure.
Here's another. This goes right along with mood rings. Magic 8 balls.
Oh yeah.
Of course. Wouldn't that have a different meaning in different parts of?
Yeah, well, I was going to say they had all kinds of Magic 8 balls in the 80s, the crack days, but yeah,
or
I
those
think John Candy had a Magic 8 ball along with what's his name from Animal House,
John Belushi.
They had Magic 8 balls, but
they speed balls or something?
Yeah, that's what they call them, speed balls. Yeah, that's what I mean. They had the bad 8 ball. They had the magic ball.
So the song of the year, after you and I just extolled the virtue of the disco, was "Love Will Keep Us Together" by the Captain and Tennille.
Oh man, yeah.
Which
not true, but yeah,
it's not. Which they were always an enigma to me. The Captain, sitting there with his like smug. He was playing the piano. He's the guy that played the piano. I don't think he ever sang. What the heck was his name?
I don't know. I follow somebody on Twitter that posts music stuff, and who sings? Did you see they got Buffalo Springfield live on like Ed Sullivan or something like that?
No, I've never seen that.
They look like Porter Wagner and a bunch of cowboys. I mean, the way some of those people dressed back in those days. So the Captain is just the Captain, man. his stick. I mean, he probably had to do
Well,
something to get.
well, he wore he looked like a sailor, is what he looked like.
Yeah,
He had that
he's
same, he had
packing,
that
dude.
like
Come on.
look at him. The album of the year now, which is a great album, Still Crazy After All These Years by Paul Simon, which I don't think people really appreciate how great Paul Simon was. Did I ever tell you I saw an interview with Steve Martin? You know, Steve Martin is
Oh, I know a banjo player, hell of a banjo player.
yeah, like I mean, he might even be nominated for Grammys
Yes.
type banjo player. And I saw him on a talk show once, and he was starting to write. He was going to put out his first album, and he asked Paul Simon if he could help him write any songs. And Paul Simon goes, "Well, I don't really have time, but I'll give you one of my notebooks of lyrics." And Steve Martin says he opens up the notebook and he's just looking at page after page of just lyrics that are better than 90% of the songs that are on the radio today. And they weren't good enough to make it as a song for
You
Paul
mean
Simon.
because he was too much of a perfectionist or something?
He just they didn't, they were just stuff.
I
Just
don't know. Some of those highbrow guys like Simon, Paul Simon, and there's two or three of them, that Upper East Side scene. I wasn't into them because I think they overthink things, right? I mean, your average dude that wants to put on a radio station wants a good blue top collar tune that hits him in the heart. Does that make sense? Not some well written stuff. Paul Simon wrote for the critics and people like you. Does that make sense?
well, I mean, come on. You don't like You Can Call Me Out or Slip Sliding Away or 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover or
I don't know, no, because I'm in the Christian radio and you shouldn't have 50 of them.
I didn't say 50. Didn't say 50 lovers. I said 50 ways to. Anyway, the top movies of the day of 1975.
Hold on a second. Death Wish, Sudden Impact. There's a Clint Eastwood. Death Wish, Sudden Impact, The Enforcer,
Not
Magnum
your top
Force,
five
Magnum
movies.
Force.
Weren't those all by Charles Bronson?
Some of them were Clint Eastwood.
Okay,
Go
how about
ahead. Tell me.
one of the all-time greats, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite. Jaws.
I should have known. I knew Jaws. I should have guessed that one.
Now, here's a movie that I've never watched, but I've heard it was a Robert Altman movie called Nashville. I've heard a lot of interviews about actors and stuff that were in that, and I would
And they
like to.
said it's just the way it was.
Said it was a great movie. Dog Day Afternoon. Isn't
Never
that
heard of it.
Dog Day Afternoon?
Nope.
Wow, isn't that oh
You lost
gosh,
it on me. I've never heard of it.
really? I'm okay.
Now would I?
Now this one I've never heard of. Barry Lyndon. I never heard of that movie.
Nope, never heard that one either.
But Dog Day Afternoon, we'll have to come back to that. So Saturday Night Live premiered with George Carlin as the first host.
Okay, that was probably a good one.
Yep, yep. Here's something that you and I probably don't know, but a chorus line first appeared on Broadway, that's probably has never not appeared on Broadway since, right? I mean,
I don't even know, man.
chorus line? Come
I
on.
know what it is, but I mean, I thought it was always. I mean, it's like been on for 30 years or something, right?
Well, this is 50 years ago. Dude, this is 50 years. We're talking 50 years ago.
Well, the last time I read about it was probably 20 years ago. So
All in the Family is the top television show for
why
the
wouldn't it be?
fifth straight year.
I
How
wish
about
they'd
that?
bring him back and get me to play Archie Bunker.
Ooh, we could reboot that, right?
Damn straight we could.
Could reboot it.
Mhm.
Obviously, the president was Gerald Ford. The vice president was Nelson Rockefeller. Um, so, what's the population of the United States right now? About 380 million?
Yeah, at that time it was probably 126 or something.
No, 215.
Oh, I wouldn't believe that.
215. Unemployment was 5.6%.
What was the interest
Um,
rate?
it doesn't have that. I don't see it yet. Cost of a first class stamp, 10 cents.
Yep. That's why the post
Uh,
office is broke.
I don't know. Quarter milk, 46 cents. Loaf of bread, 33 cents. They claim the Vietnam War ended on April 30th. I don't believe that. Um, let's see. Margaret Thatcher, first woman elected to lead Great Britain.
Prime Minister, uh-huh.
Egypt. Now, I don't know that Egypt reopens the Suez Canal after 8 years.
Yeah, they had some problems, and we didn't have the balls to bomb the shit out of them, open it back in them days.
Home. Now, this is weird because this did not really have a long lifespan. Home videotape systems, VCRs, are developed in Japan by Sony and Matsushita. Boy, is that so that's crazy. The Atari home computer kit allows consumers to build and program their own personal computers in 1975. Isn't that amazing that like so VCRs went gone, but
VCRs weren't there yet.
well, they just were developed.
Oh, in 75 they came out?
It's in 75, and then they're already here and gone.
I was
But
telling you that I was telling somebody this. You remember the big Beta Playmasters that had like a big, almost like a record player that was for video?
laser discs.
Yes.
Yes,
I
laser
knew,
discs.
yeah, I only knew one person that had one. There's a guy in my class had one of them
Hmm.
things. And I was trying to explain to some guys that worked the other day, and they didn't, young guys, and they never even heard anything like that. But anyway,
Of laser discs.
yeah,
Well,
they don't even know. And I tell you know what the video, the first laser disc, the only laser disc video I've ever seen.
oh God. Well, they were only around for like 5 years or something, right?
Yeah, probably.
What would have been the laser disc that you
I know
watched?
what it was. That's what I'm saying. I know what the first one. I know what the only one I ever seen was.
What was it?
It was Eddie Murphy Raw. And you look at that. I think it came out in what 80.
584.
I thought it was 83. I can look it up here. I got this Google thing in my hand. And think about
Wonder what a laser disc of Eddie Murphy's Raw is worth.
about 10 cents if you tape a nickel to it. This says 87.
What was first? Delirious? Are you sure you didn't watch Delirious?
Maybe it was Delirious.
Because isn't Raw the one where he's up there in the purple suit? Remember the
Okay, 83. Delirious.
Delirious?
So it
Okay,
would have been yes. In the red. He was in the red
he's in
leather.
yes in Delirious, and
Yes.
the Raw he was in the
He
how
must have had a Prince theme going.
how
Purple
bad,
Rain, baby.
how bad is that we remember what Eddie Murphy was wearing? So they developed the Apple One prototype in 1975. Super Bowl. Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Minnesota Vikings
Of
16 to
course, one of
16.
many defeats the Vikings had in the 70s at the Super Bowl.
At
One of four.
at least four, yes.
At the hands of Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah. World Series, my Cincinnati Reds, 4-3 over the Boston Red Sox.
Oh, yeah. So I wonder how much Pete lost on that game.
Wouldn't he have won? He had to have bet on himself because he was such a
Yeah, they always said he didn't bet on his games though.
right.
Did you see Trump wants to get him in? Trump was trying to pardon him or do some shit the other day to get him in.
Listen, that would be one of few victories in my scoring system.
And they were trying to tell him that he was
for-
the president and he had nothing to do with
It's
MLB.
not-
And he said,
not the
"No,
base.
I am the president." No, you know what I mean? They were just trying to say, "You're not the president of everything, dude."
Like
You're
I
the president
like listen, I heard the other day, and this is totally off topic, that that there was some talk about us like rejoining the Commonwealth, and he said he would be open to it. He thought it was a great idea. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
You know,
Didn't we fight a revolution?
I know this isn't some days I wish I had a political show, and this is not a political show, but I was listening to somebody that was doing a podcast of one of his chief negotiators. You know, I forgot the guy's name, right? Some super smart guy. And he was just talking about how he's talking about the Middle East, Israeli, Hamas,
Mhm.
UAE, and all that stuff, and how because the guy who was interviewing said, basically, how are you received there or whatever, and he said, you got to understand some of those people, they're so spooked by Trump. Does that make sense? Like he
Yeah.
says so much crazy shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they can't ignore him like they can other administrations in the past. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? Because
Hmm.
because they have to at least attend because he will call them out, and his story might not be the truth, but you know what I mean? It might not be exactly the way it was, but if they don't play ball, he'll start a
they,
fire that they have to put out.
they just don't know what's going to happen.
Yes, and he
And
said, he said and this guy was an old real estate guy, and an attorney, and he said, uh, in what not inconsistency, it was unpredictability is a good thing in an adversarial relationship, because if they think they got you figured out, they act a certain way, and a lot of times when it
you
comes to
know,
politicians, they do have you figured out.
I agree at like the poker table, but I don't agree totally when it comes to nuclear weapons.
Well,
So
ain't nobody going to launch any nuclear weapons,
who knows? I don't know.
you know.
Anyway, back to 1975 when we had a great president, uh,
He was
Gerald
put in
Ford.
by a CIA coup, but yeah, go ahead.
Gerald Ford. Anyway, NBA championship, Golden State Warriors. And
They were a thing back then.
listen, I got to be honest. I don't even know, and I know a lot of sport. I know a lot of sports, and I struggle remembering anything about the 1974-75 Golden State Warriors.
I mean,
Or,
I would have thought it'd been the Lakers. Didn't that Fletch always wore the Lakers stuff?
and they defeated the Washington Bullets. How about that for an old school name? The Washington Bullets, who are now the Wizards. Arthur Ashe wins Wimbledon,
Oh
and
yeah.
Billie Jean King wins his sixth Wimbledon crown and retires from singles tennis. Microsoft becomes a registered trademark. And what is this? The names of actual companies and products mentioned herein may be oh gosh, that's a disclaimer. So even an article about 1975 has disclaimers.
It says what? Don't believe what we're telling you.
I don't know. I don't know. But what was some of the here? So here were some of the other top songs since we didn't necessarily agree. Now on this list, Rhinestone Cowboy by Glenn Campbell, which
Oh
you and
yeah,
I
it's gonna be a great one. It's not quite Wichita lineman, but it's okay.
know. You're right, you're right. And anybody listening does not know Wichita Lineman or Rhinestone Cowboy for that matter of
Don't
fact.
even get on. Don't even send us a message.
Don't send us a message, just go listen. Okay. Philadelphia Freedom by Elton John. That was
Okay,
pretty good.
yeah,
Here's one, Jive Talking by the Bee Gees.
there you go. That's right.
One of These Nights by the Eagles, who just went crazy putting out songs in the 70s. But now here's a song.
They had a coke habit to keep up with.
Yeah, exactly. But Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Yep.
Was that as big the first time around?
I don't think it was as big then. I think there was a lag.
Yeah, like it
For some
wasn't.
reason, I thought they were big in the late 79, 80. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it,
But
like
there was just a Freddie Mercury movie. When you said Elton John, I almost asked you if you've seen Rocket Man, the movie about Elton John. That's a cute movie.
I think I have.
It just came out last year, but I didn't get through the Freddie Mercury movie.
Really, that's a great.
Yeah, well, I mean, I say I didn't get through it. It was up there, but it's got to hook me, or I change the channel pretty quick a lot of times.
Um, this has taken me to the number one singles from 1975 since we're on this kick because
Yep.
um the first number Mandy by Barry Manilow,
Okay.
which Homer Simpson does a great rendition of that on The Simpsons. But what about Please Mr. Postman by the Carpenters?
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
even know that.
Did I tell you my Carpenter story?
No, what's your
I told you
Carpenter?
my Carpenter story, didn't I?
No, like Karen and Richard Carpenter. No,
Yeah.
what's your
So
Carpenter?
so after 9/11, I went to work for the Air Marshal Service, and they were hiring a third of the workforce were badass special forces guys. No shit. You know, a lot of Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Army Rangers, right? And they sent me. I was the kind of the lead on a thing. They sent 10 of us over to this Air Force Med Tech program to be EMTs. So it was a 2-week crash course. We would get National Register EMT in our EMTB. Basic means B is basic. So basically, they wanted us to be EMTs on the plane to take care of our own people in case something happened more than anything. You know what I mean? The team, because you were going overseas and you were doing all this high speed shit, right? So I got chosen. My first boss chose me for a lot of stuff, and basically we went through this, and she gave me a list of guys to pick, which means you're taking these guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was this one of them that was this reserve infantry captain that you know, and I don't know how I knew this, but I seen him in the office one day because he was about to get called back up, you know, because 9/11 they were recalling guys and calling back up. So he was in the office one day in his uniform, and he had, you know, airborne, air assault, infantry. He had all this war fighting shit, right? And he was always kind of an oddball where you couldn't decide, is he an idiot or is he autistic or he's so smart he can't, you know what I mean? You never knew. I never knew because I wasn't around him that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm over to school with him at this Air Force school, and in some ways, I don't want to say brilliant, but he's almost. I mean, he doesn't have to study. He memorizes everything. He knows exactly what, you know what I mean. He's got all this stuff, and he drives this piece of shit like. I don't even know, man. I don't even know, some kind of a early 90s sedan of some sort. I think it was a Grand Prix, maybe.
Okay.
Or an Olds. What was the Olds that looked like the Grand Prix?
Cutlass Supreme, right?
Yes, something like that. But not the cool 84 Cutlass Supreme, the shitbox 95 4-door, right? Okay. And this is summertime, and it's
the one I would have had to drive if I had it.
And basically every day we go to lunch somewhere different off post, right? So we go different off post, and it's like everybody's trying to decide who they're going to ride with. All the cool kids try to clump together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And one day he says, "Hey, you want to ride with me?" Because he always had drove by himself because nobody ever rode with him, and then he didn't invite him because he was an oddball. Okay. So he says, "Do you want to ride with me?" And I said, "Yeah, shit, I'll go with you." And I get, and the turd box car didn't bother me because I had a crappy old truck at the time. I drove crappy trucks my whole life. Okay. So I get in this car, and the first thing he tells me, "Well, sorry, the air doesn't work." It's got the automatic seatbelt. Remember the automatic seatbelt, the shoulder belt that would come down?
Yeah.
But I had to do the lap belt, and it's August. The air conditioning doesn't work, and my fucking window don't go down because he said, "Oh, your window don't go down." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And we're going to eat Thai. You know, these guys always want to go eat Thai or tofu or some Chinese. The Chinese buffet had some of this stuff with it. So that's the only good thing. And we're cruising down there, and this car is just filthy, dude. And he's actually, I wouldn't have thought it because he was kind of a clean freak in his the way he dressed, right? But in his car was a pile of crap, and we're going down the road, and it's got a cassette in it, and the cassette in there. And I don't remember what he was talking, but he had a reputation. He always talked like he was some kind of war fighting badass, right?
Even though he was an oddball, he came.
Yeah, and some people thought like that because sometimes if you've seen the elephant, you get a bubble off. Does that make sense? Like something happens and you can't relate to the average dude, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ever listen to Sean Ryan's podcast?
No.
He's got some phenomenal people on there. I mean, I was listening to one yesterday. This dude got shot in the face, in the head from behind, took out his orbital, took out his eye. After he doesn't get shot in the elbow, he got stitched across with a machine gun, laid there, fought through it. I mean, crazy stuff. So anyhow, back to this warfighting dude. So I go to eat. The cassette really bothered me a little bit, but I didn't. I'm in his car. I'm a guest in his car, right? So we go eat this Chinese buffet stuff, and we're rolling back, and I'm sweating like a son of a gun. I ate too much. So between the carbs and the no air conditioning, I'm about to go into cardiac arrest. And I think before I die, I just got to see it. And as I go to reach for it, he tries basically to stop my hand from grabbing that cassette. Okay. Which only makes me get it. As I'm reading it, he says, I think my wife left that in here. And it's the best of the Carpenters.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.